Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown for the trailer for Marvel Studios' Thunderbolts. Asterisk. While this is largely the trailer that we saw at San Diego Comic-Con, it's now being able to see it in high def has revealed several new clues, including finally some confirmation of what the hell happened to Avengers Tower. It is now Sentry's Watchtower, or perhaps it always has been. Let's break down this trailer frame by frame for all the details you missed. I am wearing our Shield Smash shirt that's available exclusively at nerdriot.shop. It's the best way to support New Rockstars, which is a great place to grab all kinds of great holiday gift options. All right, let's get started with this trailer.
I click leave on porch.
Alexi, it's me. Open up.
Yelena? Yelena!
Hi, Dad.
All right, Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh, knocks on the apartment door of Alexei Shostakov, Red Guardian, David Harbour, who, along with Melina Vostokov, raised Yelena and Natasha Romanov as a supposedly American family of actual Russian spies that were living in Ohio up through the mid-90s until they had to flee. The Black Widow film reunited this family on a mission to bring down the floating Red Room station and liberate all the Widow agents, including Taskmaster, Antonia Dreykov. Yes, the long-lost Dreykov's daughter, mentioned by Loki to Natasha in the 2012 Avengers film. Since then, we've seen Yelena Belova in the Hawkeye series, working for Val on a mission to try to kill Clint Barton, Hawkeye, blaming him for Natasha's death in Avengers Endgame until she was ultimately able to forgive him and the two parted ways. Now, oddly, Scarlett Johansson is listed as an executive producer on this Thunderbolts film, despite no reports or speculation that she's even going to appear in it. Why is she an EP? Well, it could be that Yelena Belova officially takes on the title of Black Widow in this movie, and Scarlett Johansson, after years of being a critical part of several billion-dollar Avengers movies, and in the past few years having to sue Marvel and Disney over profit sharing after the studio released the 2021 Black Widow movie on Disney+, the actress might just have a sweet legacy producer contract where any Marvel Studios movie with a Black Widow character in it automatically gets her an EP credit. Or maybe she will cameo in this movie, but only on the condition of an EP credit. Alexei assumes that Yelena is a DoorDash delivery driver. In his messy apartment, you can see a flag or a banner on the wall with a Russian eagle with strength and freedom along the bottom of the crest and a Bengal tiger on the other side. He rapidly cleans up his place, and in the kitchen you can see several past due notices that were pinned to his refrigerator, and he wants to remember that he is behind on his rent and his other utilities. He pins them to the fridge. He doesn't throw them away. We see him washing his teeth with dish soap. Ugh, that's disgusting. And then he lets Yelena into his home, and we hear the song that's been featured throughout this trailer, the Pixies' Where Is My Mind. At first, it actually sounds diegetic in the scene, which would mean coming from an audio source within the scene, but it just kind of takes over the trailer afterwards. Where Is My Mind is a 1988 track, best known for playing over the final scene of David Fincher's 1999 film Fight Club, which was, of course, a story about a schizophrenic narrator struggling with his perception of reality, and ending with Where Is My Mind as narrator and Marla watch skyscrapers implode as Project Mayhem erupts across the world, was really meant to reflect the narrator's shock, his guilt, his acceptance for his part in the chaos wrought by his alter, Tyler Durden, and really all of us realizing that we never really know where our minds are likely to wander off to as we cope with our loss of identity in a late-stage capitalist society. Now, why use Where Is My Mind for this trailer? Is it just a needle drop for us 90s millennials who loved Fight Club and characters looking jadedly out of high-rise windows? Or is this meant to reflect the altered reality consciousness of Bob Reynolds, aka Sentry, Louis Pullman's character, who in the comics was retconned as a Marvel hero from the early days, who was so powerful that he altered reality so that no one knew of his existence or was able to perceive his watchtower. Throughout this video, I'm going to explain how Marvel Studios might actually be planning some insanely trippy things for Sentry in this movie, and how it could even finally answer what the hell that asterisk is all about in the title. Alexei claims to Yelena that he's keeping busy, saying many irons in fire, which I'm choosing to see as a clue that Marvel Studios is currently forging multiple variants of Iron Man, not just Robert Downey Jr. returning as Dr. Doom, not just Riri Williams as Ironheart, but rather multiple Tony Starks in Secret Wars. Actually, the iconic image of Tony Stark hammering his Mark I armor together in the cave seems to be reflected in this poster behind Yelena that displays the Red Guardian in some Cold War era Russian propaganda art, swinging a hammer down on an anvil to break the chain, probably the chains of bondage of the working class as they overthrow their capitalist pigs. And yeah, the hammer that he's wielding, interestingly Mjolnir shaped. We get a yellow on black Marvel Studios logo that rises with the elevator door on Yelena Belova. Yellow and black are the colors of Sentry, we should note. Bucky Barnes walks into a congressional hearing room. He wears a Member of Congress pin, and yes, Sebastian Stan has confirmed that Bucky will be a congressman in this movie. For Bucky to be a congressperson, a member of the House of Representatives, he would have had to win an election in one of the 435 federal congressional districts. In the American political system, senators of the US Senate can be appointed in the case of a vacancy, like if a senator passes away or resigns to take another job. The governor of their state appoints a replacement until a special election can be held. But in the case of the US House, the seat is left vacant until the special election, and that's why on many House votes, they don't have a total of 435 voting members. Not just because, some people in the House don't show up for votes, but because there are at oftentimes only 431 or 432 actual sitting Congress people who can vote. Now, Bucky could have run uncontested, but he definitely would have had to go through the filing process, and the name James Buchanan Barnes would have had to have appeared on a ballot somewhere. I'm just curious how that worked, considering this guy's past as an ageless Hydra super assassin and international fugitive Winter Soldier who at one point was blamed for assassinating world leaders at the UN. I mean, hey, maybe in some districts that would have been seen as a plus. Wyatt Russell returns as John Walker, last seen in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, a government agent set up to be the heir to the Captain America mantle who juiced up with supersoldier serum and then violently and publicly killed a flag smasher using the Captain America shield. After his dishonorable discharge, Val approached him to recruit him, giving him a new suit, making him the US agent. Now, in that series, he was married to a wife named Olivia and they had a child. That kid appears now crying for the bottle while John spirals in depression, reading some negative stories about himself. And let's read what's on the screen here. Fall of a Hero, the John Walker story. Few have fallen further from grace than the putative heir to the mantle of Captain America, John Walker. Not long ago, Walker was thrust into the public consciousness with all the fanfare Washington could muster. Story by Rory Bruin. And actually, Rory Bruin is the art director for this movie. He previously worked on Christopher Nolan's Tenet. And then the article goes on to say, the story of what went wrong starts long before his unveiling just a few short years ago. While no one could doubt that the boots of Steve Rogers were big ones to fill by any man's standards, Walker did seem to fit the bill. A decorated combat veteran from the Army Rangers, Walker something. So a few years ago tells us that this is set a few years after the events of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which would suggest that this movie's set in the MCU timeline year of 2027. When I hear a few, I don't think 2 years, I hear at least 3. Then we move on to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Yelena Belova watches the entire floor of a building explode, and while everyone around her ducks and runs, she just calmly turns around. So this is straight up an act of terror that Yelena commits and doesn't bat an eye. And yes, Yelena holds a guinea pig in her hand. I feel like she probably salvaged this little fella from the lab inside. And she's like, I can't let this guy turn into roasted guinea pig. Also, if this rodent received the same juice that Sentry got, he's gonna get yoked and he's gonna warp reality to think that hamsters are nocturnal when in reality they're not. They're actually early risers with day jobs. Now, Brandon Barrick located exactly where this is, and it's on this street in Kuala Lumpur, right beside a coffee shop called Kedai Kopi Kong Ho, and not far from the Malaysian CIMB Bank. For anyone worried about the infrastructure damage to Kuala Lumpur when they were shooting this explosion is obviously VFX. The windows on the floor do not even shatter before we see the fireball emit from them, and the upper and lower floors windows don't break either, and they absolutely would just on the immediate detonation. But next we see Yelena taking out some armed guards in a corridor. Behind her on the door you can see the words Lobby Utama, which in Indonesian is main lobby. So this may be like an Indonesian office building in Kuala Lumpur. Yelena is wearing the same hoodie that she was wearing on the street. Actually, later in this trailer, when Yelena is wearing the same outfit, she attacks this bearded man wearing a white lab coat. He's got a gun and they're in a lab, and in her hand is this vial of red fluid, which almost looks like the serum that was used for the brainwashed Widow agents in the 2021 Black Widow movie. I don't know, maybe this lab was trying to produce a new serum to try to reprogram some of these agents, and that's why Yelena felt no shame letting this floor of the building explode. Alternatively, this serum could have been the cocktail that was used to produce the Sentry super soldier, and that's why Yelena later in this trailer when she's holding this says this could get messy. But then in a different part of the film, Yelena is wearing tactical gear entering this lab where IV drip stands are wrapped in plastic sheeting, and she passes this paperwork. We gotta zoom in and hands on this. Okay, the 2 pages on the right show various alternates of an S logo, which would be for Sentry. On the far right, we see 12 blank heads with different haircuts, and above that, 12 heads with just different hair colors beneath a bar graph displaying corresponding stats for each of them, probably for just average popularity of like a superhero based on their hair color. And I hope that they like surveyed people based on the Avengers and Marvel heroes that we know. So who is Sentry? Legitimately, that's what a lot of people in the Marvel world ask. They're like, who the hell is Sentry? We've never heard of Sentry. He is the forgotten Marvel hero. Sentry was a Marvel character who was actually introduced in September 2000, created by Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee, a character as powerful as Superman, but really in the body of an over-the-hill guy who's struggling with addiction and mental health issues. Rick Veitch, who co-developed the character, had the idea to market the character's introduction as like a figure from Marvel Comics from the 40s that you just somehow never heard of, pretending that this guy was also one of the iconic creations of Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. So they did this by drawing versions of Sentry that were just in the older art style and with the classic type of golden age dialogue. But due to some cataclysmic event, everyone in the universe forgot about Sentry's existence, including Bob Reynolds himself. Actually, the Sentry #1 introduces us to the average overweight Bob Reynolds, who's dealing with alcoholism and mental health, just taking his dog out at night. But from this, we flash back to memories of a whole other life where Bob was a superhero named Sentry, and past eras of history who had taken a super soldier serum 1,000 times more potent than the one given to Steve Rogers, which gives him the power of, quote, 1 million exploding suns. Now, throughout the comics, we see how Sentry's powers involve manipulating reality, as well as using telepathy. He goes up against pretty much every Marvel character, from the Hulk to Galactus' Herald Terrax to Rogue and Doctor Doom. Spider-Man at one point recalls Sentry fought Galactus to a stalemate. Sentry completely rips Ares in half at one point. He is considered one of the deadliest Marvel Comics characters, at least when it comes to his power set. But he also has to share his consciousness with his arch nemesis called the Void, which is a dark cosmic entity who takes the persona of his dog in the first issue, and the dog is even right there in the opening panel. Ooh, creepy. So with the Sentry in this movie, I think Marvel Studios is actually suggesting that there was another Captain America test subject given a serum that was just far too potent and kept in lockdown. But now there's some effort, perhaps by Val, to weaponize and to market Sentry as what she hopes will be a controllable Avenger. Two things are true for every single person I know. One, they want more money, and two, they have downtime. If that's also true for you, you gotta check out Free Cash. Free Cash is an online platform with a 4.6 star rating on Trustpilot, where users from all over the world can sign up for free and make money just by playing mobile games. It's super easy to use too. You sign up for an account, and Free Cash will give you a handful of games you can play to earn money. Choose a game, enable app tracking so Free Cash can reward your progress, and then pop your earnings out into your PayPal account. I logged in, got an offer for a game called Seaside Escape, played until I reached level 50, and then transferred the money straight into my PayPal account. If you're curious about Free Cash, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen that'll give you access to the platform, plus a $5 bonus on your first offer. Depending on where you live, your interface might look a little different, but the functionality is the same. Sign up, play games, get Free Cash. And so this paperwork reflects like different focus group hairstyles that they're considering to give the Sentry, as well as drafts of artwork for his S logo. The IV drips in the plastic bags could be part of lab experiments on Bob Reynolds to harvest his blood. Now on the lower left of this page is a pie chart, and you'll notice on the paperwork, and actually several of the crates and the fight scene later are stamped with the letters OXE, which is actually the name of a group founded by Val in the recent Thunderbolts comics from December 2023, affiliated with the Outer Circle. The Outer Circle being a global cabal that influences world events that Val is involved with. And Bucky approaches Val about forming this new Thunderbolts lineup in the recent run using connections with the OXE, and he even asks what it stands for and never really gets a clear answer. So considering this run is being published when the Thunderbolts movie was being developed, I kind of wonder if OXE is going to be revealed in this movie. Could be something fun, like a reference to OZT, which is Operation Zero Tolerance. This could be like Operation X Extermination. That might be a little redundant with like the X sound. Hey, it'd just be fun if Val could be involved in a plan to curb the mutant population on Earth, and it may end up being that OXE is an organization that is now in control of Avengers Tower, because perhaps the most important detail in this paperwork is on the left. Some blueprints labeled the Watchtower. This is our clearest answer yet as to what is really going on with Avengers Tower in the MCU. The Watchtower is known as the headquarters for the Sentry, located in Midtown Manhattan, supervised by an AI named Clock, who oversees the world's communications to alert the Sentry about emergencies. But Tony Stark builds Stark Tower on the same site where the Watchtower is situated. But because the Sentry's powers warped reality to cause any signs of his existence to disappear and to be overlooked and ignored, Tony Stark and his whole construction team do not realize the shadowy antlered tower with the golden sphere at the top and the void that's supposed to be in the basement of this tower are co-occupying the site of Stark Tower. So literally, Sentry's Watchtower and Stark Tower are like the same building. Now, that is really just according to the Sentry comics, and not everyone long read Sentry comics. That's why this doesn't come up in a lot of speculation about Avengers Tower. But Marvel Studios now appears to be doing something very similar. Like they might be saying that Bob Reynolds' Sentry was the US government's first super soldier experiment after Steve Rogers went into the ice. And this worked too well, so they buried the evidence. Maybe even Howard Stark aided in this cover-up by purchasing the lease to the land in Midtown Manhattan, property that would pass down to his son Tony Stark and become the location where Tony builds Stark Tower. And Howard never had a chance to tell Tony about this because the Winter Soldier murdered him in 1991. Now, this trailer does show us the team on the penthouse level of Avengers Tower later on in the trailer. So they're probably going to answer that question with some kind of similar explanation. But the question remains, will Marvel Studios go all the way and retcon the entire silhouette of the tower to look like now the curvy antlered Watchtower as reality is warped upon people learning of Sentry's existence? Or will this just be a historical secret buried under the ground level of the Avengers Tower site that just changes the way the team members on the Thunderbolts look at MCU history with the super soldier serum? Now, the excitable Marvel nerd theorist in me wants to tie this to Doctor Strange's spell in Spider-Man No Way Home, the runes of Kafkal, which not just altered the memories of everyone in this universe to forget who Peter Parker is, but also must have warped physical matter within this reality. Birth records, student records, yearbook photos, media publications, digital archives, to prevent anyone from stumbling upon evidence of Peter's existence. Maybe it was that spell that replaced a previous reality warp that was in place to make everyone forget that Sentry existed. And really, using Where Is My Mind in this trailer makes me wonder if Marvel might be trying to prepare us for a Fight Club level reality warp twist. But the perennially disappointed realist in me says that this might just have nothing to do with Doctor Strange's spell, and it'll just be another layer of history that we learn about the super soldier program, which would mean that Avengers Tower could still be, in effect, Sentry's Watchtower, but beyond this film and on the outside of the building, just a structure taken over and branded by anyone, including Val, or maybe her possible silent partner, Wilson Fisk. Yelena's mission in this lab looks like it was a trap to collide her with US agent Taskmaster and Ghost Ava Starr from 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp, who, due to quantum realm radiation, has the ability to phase shift through physical matter. And maybe the plan was to have Sentry just kill them all because they just know too much about what Val's really up to. Kind of like the Guardians of the Globe being massacred by Omni-Man in the first episode of Invincible. Now, we can't play the clip here with the music because of YouTube, but they edit US agent's gunfire with the rhythm of Where Is My Mind, where it's kind of like, with your feet in the air and your head on the ground. Bum, bum, bum. Now, in music theory, there's something called the triplet, where 3 notes fill the space of a 2-note pattern, and each of the 3 notes have equal value. You see this a lot in like dubstep as a way of creating kind of a lag between more rapid moments, where it's like you know? Now, I don't know if the editor who cut this trailer intentionally did this or just kind of synced the gunfire with the music to create a cool dubstep effect, but it results in the characters' combat interrupting what feels like a languid, ponderous state of reflection that they're all sharing. It really just seems like each of these 4 assassins were told to kill whoever they found in this place because there are no sides, no factions, everyone's just trying to kill everyone. Ghost phases through US agent's body to attack Taskmaster. Yelena flings her knife at Ghost, who lets it phase through her head, but then she catches it with her hand. And then in the same shot, the camera pivots to follow that knife as she flings it at Taskmaster, who deflects it off of her shield in the direction of US agent. And then we cut to US agent as we see Taskmaster turning, not even caring if that knife hits John or not. And she just turns to confront Ghost, but then John catches the knife and then brings it back full circle to stab at Yelena's face. She restrains US agent, but she shouldn't be able to do that because he has super soldier serum and she has normal strength, but notice she has activated Natasha's old widow's bites that she wears on her wrists, which I think might be running an electric current through John Walker to hold him back. Now, of course, if John were to just drop the knife at this angle, it would really leave a nasty cut on Yelena's face. Now, during this sequence, we see the new shield that US agent carries. It is blank without sigil, and we get a better look at it in the official poster. It's severely scratched up, which suggests that A, it's been used on quite a few Black Ops missions in the past few years, and B, it is not made out of vibranium probably, or for that matter, adamantium, because we know we're getting that in Captain America Brave New World. Bob Reynolds stumbles out of one of these crates and introduces himself.
Oh no.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
Who sent you, Bob?
Nobody.
That snap, doesn't it kind of sound like a Disney Plus snap sound effect? We heard this from Paradox and Deadpool and Wolverine.
Why am I here?
Walk with me.
Bob Reynolds is played by Lewis Pullman, son of Bill Pullman. Lewis also played a character named Bob in Top Gun Maverick.
When did you get in?
Oh, I've been here the whole time.
What do they call you?
Bob?
No, your call sign.
Bob.
As these killers realize the scheme to have them off each other and they begin to actually, talk to each other, the blast doors seal shut, the lights turn red, and a 1-minute digital timer starts ticking down, and these fiery vents begin to blaze. Now, why even give a countdown timer and what seems like a kill box? Well, because it's more cinematic. Bombs in every action movie have these needless timers on them. It's just to kind of give the viewers heart attacks. Okay, now we move on to this gala with banners honoring the heroes, Battle of New York. On the left, that looks like Clint Barton Hawkeye with his arrow drawn, and Tony Stark with those weird bell-bottom style pants that Robert Downey Jr. seems to love to wear. And then on the right banner, that looks like Clint again with Iron Man in the Mark 7 armor. That was the armor with the circular chest piece that was unveiled during the Battle of New York when Tony leapt off Stark Tower and it caught him midair. And then on display throughout this gala are relics from this battle. Front and center, that is Loki's scepter. So this scepter was briefly in possession of Hydra after the Battle of New York. We saw Sitwell and Brumlow taking it in Avengers Endgame, and then obviously Von Strucker had it. He used the Mind Stone inside of it to experiment on Wanda and Pietro. And then the last time we saw the scepter, Ultron had it, and he was extracting the Mind Stone to place it in the head of the android body that he was building, which eventually became Vision. Presumably the scepter would have returned to Avengers compound under the supervision of Tony Stark and Happy Hogan. Also on display in the center of this room looks like a tooth or like a bone or maybe even a spike of a Chitauri Leviathan. And then 6 smaller cases, contents are harder to make out, but I think one contains a Chitauri blaster. There are also some horizontal cases beneath the banners that contain some long objects, maybe Natasha's batons or some of Clint's arrows, maybe his quiver. Now Bucky attends this gala wearing a tuxedo and his member of Congress pin showing, so it's probably like a government function. Val, sporting a new silver stripe in her hair, laughs it up while her assistant is beside her. This assistant is played by Geraldine Viswanathan, who replaced Iowa Dabiri in this role. Stephen Yeun was actually originally cast as Sentry in this movie. Now, I pitched the theory that Val changes the color of her hair stripe every time we see her, and in this one case, making it white could be to endear her to Wilson Fisk, to make her look more like Vanessa. And Val might just want to be Wilson Fisk's work wife. Then we see a quick shot that looks like it's from a dream sequence. Yelena running through a snowy forest, plowing into a wall, and then the camera rotates 90 degrees as she falls through this down onto a table where there are 5 young people sitting. Maybe these are girls from the Red Room. Bob Reynolds faces a line of armed soldiers who unload on him. His hospital gown already has holes in it. From past times he has been shot at, but among his powers is impenetrability. Now some are saying you can see the void in Bob's eyes in this moment. I really just think it's the floodlights reflecting in Lewis Pullman's eyes, but hey, the actor himself is doing a pretty good job emoting the void. He's a very good actor who can kind of channel that innocence, but also that very dark side, and I think that's gonna be a big part of the Bob Reynolds character. Then Bucky pulls his vibranium arm out of the dishwasher and pops it back on his shoulder. So the last time we saw this arm, Nebula was giving it to Rocket in Nowhere as a Christmas present in the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. At the time, we were all very confused. We recognized it as a callback to Rocket wanting that arm during the Battle of Wakanda in Avengers Infinity War.
Okay, how much for the arm? Oh, I'll get that arm.
But how did Nebula get it? James Gunn curtly explained this by just saying that Nebula took a trip to Earth and ripped it off Bucky's shoulder because she was feeling so Christmassy. That's not really an explanation, James, but I think it just implied that Gunn wasn't too crazy about Marvel Studios retconning certain details about his Guardians movies and other movies that he wasn't directing, like Peter Quill's mask. So I don't think Gunn ever really had much of an explanation for how Nebula got Bucky's arm, but I also think the studio doesn't care that much about this holiday special on Disney+. Who knows, maybe we'll get a quote from Kevin Feige saying that Rocket at some point came back to Earth to visit Peter Quill in Missouri and return the arm to Bucky because he felt bad. While Red Guardian fights a soldier in the background, US agent uses a shield to drag another soldier's head against a wall. The American flag on his pauldron looks pretty faded and darkened. This looks like it's in the same general location as other shots of Ghost and Yelena, as well as Alexei and Bucky driving this truck through an alley. And notice how it's named Depew Place. This is actually an alley right next to Grand Central Terminal, not far from the bridge where Clint Barton found the plaque memorializing the Avengers in the Battle of New York and that episode of Hawkeye. So in effect, the Thunderbolts are getting their own Battle of New York. And one of my favorite moments of the trailer, Bucky rides up in a motorcycle alongside this armored truck. He shoots out its tow cable hook and he brakes so fast he goes up on his front wheel, and then he grabs the cable with his freshly dishwashed vibranium arm and yanks it over his shoulder to flip the whole damn thing. Just a reminder, this is a sitting member of Congress. Okay, we see Bob, I'm pretty sure, picking up this emblem. This is the Sentry S sigil. It looks like it would be from a chest piece or maybe a belt buckle that's part of a suit. I'm pretty sure that's Sentry's boot. boots that are marching down the steps of the penthouse level of Avengers Tower. And we get a wider shot of this location as Bucky and Yelena, John, Alexei, and Ava come out of an elevator to meet Val. This is definitely the Avengers Tower penthouse as we saw it in Avengers Age of Ultron and in Spider-Man Homecoming. The beams forming the window wall are angled just like they were in Age of Ultron when this penthouse had been expanded to provide a larger Quinjet launch pad above it. And then the bar area has the same rock wall design that we saw before, originally Tony's decor from the earlier era penthouse in 2012's Avengers. But in this group shot, when Val calls them adorable, Taskmaster is standing between Ava and John. I'm pretty sure she was painted in with VFX because Antonia was not there in the elevator with them, and the placement is just kind of awkwardly clustered on that side, and we see pretty much no shots of Taskmaster from any other scene in the trailer. I think she dies early on. So after the title, we end with another part of Bucky's truck flipping sequence. These trucks fire at this red limo, DC plates L106T. Now in DC, an L tag is issued to a luxury class sedan and limo. It has these festive lights on the inside for, I guess, partiers. I'm guessing it was for some kind of like Russian diplomat with diplomatic immunity, but maybe they were like assassinated and then they were put in government storage in this remote desert location. Alexei and Yelena are up front, John and Ava are in the back, and Bucky rides up like the freaking Terminator after clearing these trucks and then whips out this bad boy, the same grenade launcher that latches an explosive to the undercarriage of a car to flip it that Bucky used on Nick Fury and Captain America Winter Soldier. When Bob faces down the soldiers who shoot at him, it looked like he was in a remote desert area, and I think that is where Alexei, Yelena, John, and Ava were driving away from here. Like Bob might have helped them escape, and then Val sent Bucky after them to kill them, but then they're gonna be able to talk to Bucky to get him to join their team. And then together, they'll all face Val, who might at that point have brainwashed Bob to go after them. But even if Bucky is like, for whatever reason, working with Val, to see him firing any kind of deadly attack at other people we know to be at least anti-heroes, people he might see as villains, but people nonetheless, it's just not something Bucky after Infinity War, after Endgame, after the Falcon and the Winter Soldier would do. But there may be something going on here, because notice he fires these weapons in this movie's footage with his left hand, his vibranium hand. Previously, his evil Hydra hand. Diane Ramirez on Twitter pointed out that Bucky is otherwise right-handed, because in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he seemed to always be holding his gun in his normal, fleshy, white hand, as a way of showing human restraint in these conflicts. Now, he seems to be back to his Winter Soldier era left hand. So what's going on? Could there be some mind control on Bucky, the way some mind control technique is being used on another former super soldier, Isaiah Bradley, in Captain America Brave New World? Now, obviously, it's tough for us because Bucky is more active as a Winter Soldier and fun to watch do his horrible things, but at the end of the day, he needs to come home as human, relatable Bucky. And to do that, he can't kill people that we know and like. So why the Asterisk and the Thunderbolts title? Now, in the past week, David Harbour weighed in, saying it was something that they retroactively added to the title, and he can't say much, but that he's just excited for viewers to see why. I think it's gonna connect to the retconning theme of Sentry, someone erased from history, and that when Sentry is revealed, it might warp the placeholder title of this movie into something like Dark Avengers or Avengers Dark Reign. The tagline of the poster seems to be playing into this Avengers theme, careful who you assemble. The official synopsis of this movie is hilarious. Marvel Studios and a crew of indie veterans who sold out present Thunderbolts, an irreverent team up featuring depressed assassin Yelena Belova alongside the MCU's least anticipated band of misfits. Yikes. Hey, comment down below with your thoughts on this trailer and what you're most excited about for Thunderbolts. Follow me at EA Voss, subscribe to all 3 channels in the new Rockstars network for breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Big thanks to Brandon Barrick for helping with all the research for this breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.